Hi guys, Jay Knowlton here once again filming subpar videos from my little office here in Chiba, Japan. Actually, I'm kind of making this video with a bit of a struggle because starting off with a side note, I just had lunch, a nice Indian curry made by Nepalese people, and after I ate and after I got the bill, a belly full of food, worried I might crap my pants in the supermarket afterwards, and not because it's Indian food, but because I ate so much. Anyway, so I got the bill. I ate 2 curries, a salad, a naan, a chicken tikka, a cheese naan and a full naan, a dessert, a mango lassi, and it only cost 1,300 yen. It's unbelievable to think that you can get so much food, and actually so much good food, for such a low price. And to be honest, 1,300 yen is still quite expensive for one person. And if 1,300 yen is going to be like the upper echelon of cost for one person in Japan, you guys are going to be in for a treat when you come to visit. So the kind of theme for this episode, not so much a theme, is the title is going to say, don't come to Japan. But actually what it should say is, don't come to Japan until. But the reason why it's only going to say don't come to Japan is so that more of you watch it. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people hate clickbaits, but unfortunately, if I don't bait those clicks, people are going to watch. And that's just how the system works. That's how everything works. That's how book titles work, movie titles, movie trailers. It's all to get clicks and views. So don't hate the player, hate the game, hate yourself for falling for it. Anyway, it's about time I get straight into the video. So I always try to encourage everyone, as many people as possible, to come to Japan. But there is some things that I would recommend you do before you come. Now, when I came to Japan, I literally finished my university degree and came here straight away because I thought I wanted to get to Japan as fast as possible. And whilst things did work out, they could have been better. You know, I'm one of those people who, I don't believe in kind of changing the past because I wouldn't be where I am. My daughter wouldn't exist. My dogs wouldn't exist. You know, I wouldn't look as cool as I do. I'm not one of those people who kind of wishes I'd done something different. But if, you know, I was going to recommend somebody to come to Japan tomorrow, I would do a few things beforehand. Now, a lot of people come to Japan as a 21-year-old if you're from the UK, 22-year-old from most other places, freshly graduated from university. But I actually don't think that's a great idea. There are many reasons for this. To become an English teacher in Japan is very easy. And I'm going to say English teacher a lot in this video and many other videos because realistically, that's what most people are going to come to Japan to do. Most people who are going to watch this video are going to come to Japan. Sorry, I should specify most people who are going to watch this video and then come to Japan. That's what they're going to do. They're going to be English teachers. Coming to Japan as an English teacher is super easy. All you need is a degree and to be relatively normal. Doesn't even have to be that normal. You can be pretty weird and still come to Japan. But I would recommend you wait. For many, many reasons. That's step one, is to wait a little bit before you come here. Now, the reason I say that is because if you plan to stay in Japan for a long time, or even after you come back to your country and want to start working again, you need something to build your career upon. Now, unfortunately, whilst it is possible to build a successful and fruitful, rich career in Japan, realistically, most of you aren't, and that can be avoided. Now, actually, some of the things that I did before I came to Japan helped me out a lot. One of them is I got a TEFL certification. Now, when I came to Japan 12 and a half years ago, I got the TEFL certification, which only cost me £50. It was an online course, a few online courses. I think I did 400 hours in total. Actually, that's quite a lot. And also I had to attend a 2-day seminar, which was full of practice lessons, observations, tips, tricks, all that kind of stuff. and I got a certification. Now, actually, 12 years in Japan, that £50 certification has actually paid out a lot of money in teate, which is like allowances, which are added to your salary. I get paid 10,000 yen a month in allowances for my TEFL certificate, about $75, but that has been for more than half my time in Japan. So we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in allowances just from a cheap certification. Now, that can be done whilst you're at university, that can be done while you're still young, so not necessarily after you graduate, though it might be easier to do so afterwards. Next, I would recommend getting a full-time job for a year and a half, maybe even 2 years. Now, a lot of people nowadays kind of look down on the idea of living with your parents. In Japan, living with your parents is quite normal. But in Western countries, you know, I left home when I was 18, never really thought about living back at home again. But I actually think if you have that kind of relationship with your family, once you graduate, you should live with your parents a little bit so you can get a nest egg. Now, this isn't even relevant to the fact that things are kind of unaffordable now in 2025. Even if things were kind of cheap, I would still recommend you do it so you could build up as much as possible in your savings account, and then you're more free to do stuff in the future. Now, if you are an American making the average American salary, which could be pretty damn good, $50,000, $60,000 a year, I think what McDonald's pays like $15 an hour. So if you could get the 40-hour week job in McDonald's, and what's the maths on that? 40 times 15, somebody tell me, maybe $600 a week, $2,400 a month, even $30,000 a year. If you're living with your parents, you know, if you're able to save even, you know, a third of that over 2 years, you're still going to have $20,000, $25,000, $30,000. And the magic about that is more than 1 year's salary after you come to live in Japan. So if you can build up those savings and bring them to Japan with you, you can have a really comfortable, really nice lifestyle. Like, I'm not going to say go out partying, going out traveling every weekend, but have that nice buffer. Because if you become an English teacher and then you decide it's not for you, you're going to need that safety net to carry you into your next career move, whether that be into another teaching job, recruiting, you know, marketing, social media, kind of stuff like that. If you want to start a YouTube channel, it's nice to have everything, you know, you don't have to worry about trying to get the Japanese credit card and ordering stuff. You can just buy all the equipment you need. Save as much money as possible. And these kind of English teaching companies would recommend, you know, bring 500,000 yen. But the goal of that is just to see you through the first couple of months, because you're not going to get paid for the first month. So that's only to keep you alive. I'm talking about some real FU money to have a nice life while living in Japan. As I said at the beginning of the video, 1,300 yen for a really nice Indian curry lunch. Big enough that I don't need to eat dinner today. How many 1,300 yen curries can you eat with $30,000? A lot. The other reason why I talk about, working for a year or two is that I think having some solid work experience on your resume will be very important once you come to Japan. Because if you decide that you want to move on from English teaching, but English teaching is the only thing you've ever done, it's quite hard to sell yourself to a Japanese company, because English teachers in Japan usually don't have a lot of responsibility. Now, there might be some English teachers who watch this saying, how dare you, I have a lot of responsibility. I'm sorry, but compared to a normal working person, English teachers don't really have to do that very much. I'm talking from experience in 2 different companies. When I worked in Peppy Kids Club, I was in charge of the classroom with the kids by myself. Now, that part was pretty tough, but the classroom was organized, the parent details, the communication, always done by the Japanese staff, always done by a head office. Even when I worked at Kogakusha, working a lot more different places, the Japanese staff really did all the heavy lifting behind the scenes. So if you can kind of prove that you're responsible, if you're able to get some kind of like, assistant manager position, that would help you a lot. Also, I would also recommend that you branch out and do a lot of little things like create a Substack blog or a YouTube channel or something like that. All these little side things just to try and get your name out there. Because the nice thing would be if you wrote some really nice, I'm not talking about, oh, Japan is the worst country in the world, because if an employer is going to search your name and those blogs come in like Japanese culture sucks, it's not really going to help you find a job in Japan. But if you had a blog that said, I visited Japan and these are the 5 best things that I experienced when interacting with Japanese people, that's kind of going to make you stand out in a nice way. Because a Japanese company would feel much more comfortable with a person who is very positive about Japan. The same with these YouTube channels. There was a lot of English teachers back in the day who were very, very negative. And even when I used to use Twitter, as much of a hellhole of that place probably still was, you would get a lot of people stuck in English teaching jobs, barely surviving, and then talking all the time on Twitter about how terrible Japan is. I'm sorry, but if that's what you want to spend your time doing, you're not going to get very far. So create all these little things that can kind of help you push up. Try and think about what future career you would like to do and maybe start getting little bits of practice. I have been trying to do a bit more social media stuff. So in my job in my company, I've been making Instagram posts. I've been learning about Instagram advertising. I got a Meta certification for social media. That can help me in the future somehow. I just passed my Chinese level 2 exam. Am I intending to speak Chinese regularly anytime soon? No, but it could help me sometime in the future. Always have these little tricks in your bag. Try and make you stand out in the future. And the last thing I would recommend people do is, even though this could change at any time, just try and have a little bit of think of what you might want to do after your first job in Japan. If the plan is to live in Japan for 1 year and then go back to your country, what do you want to do when you come back? What do you want to do if you were to stay in Japan? Is there a place in Japan you would want to try and live in? Having this kind of idea for the future is really necessary for staying motivated. Now, I know a lot of people kind of like to live free and some people can really make that work. But if you kind of have an idea of what you're aiming for, and if it's kind of realistic, I always go back to a story when I worked in Kogakusho where one of my co-workers was a guy from Wales, and he would tell me about how his goal was to open his own translation company. And in the 3 years that we worked together, he didn't even pass, he failed JLPT N5. And that's the lowest Japanese proficiency exam, by the way. And it kind of made me think, like, if you clearly have no ability to study Japanese, and, studying languages is not easy. If you clearly don't have a knack for this, why was your goal to open a translation agency? Was it just because you thought that would make money? Or, you should kind of aim for something that you might be able to achieve and do little things on the way to make it. It's not really good to say, I'm going to come to Japan and be an actor, and I'm going to be one of the biggest foreign actors in Japan, but then you don't speak Japanese, you have no acting experience, you just think because you're a white guy coming to Japan that people will obsess over you. Those little things are not going to help you. But maybe thinking, okay, I'm just going to think of I want to work for Trash Taste in the future as a producer. So you kind of start making YouTube videos, you kind of get experience in social media, you make your own podcast, you follow, you subscribe, you comment, you get to know people. Those little things might help you get a job you want to do in the future. But yeah, guys, those are just a few things I would recommend for coming to Japan. If there's any comments you have, please let me know down below. And thanks all for watching. And I'm going to sleep off this curry. Goodbye.